You're driving along Highway 1, soaking in the postcard-perfect view, the Pacific shimmering to your left, dramatic cliffs rising to your right, and then, without warning, the pavement beneath your tires shifts. A fresh crack stretches across the road. Traffic halts. Phones come out. But by the time it hits the news, it's already old information. Because here's the terrifying truth: California's coast is changing, fast, and not in a new surf spot kind of way. In early 2026, scientists and emergency officials issued some of their most urgent warnings yet.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Entire stretches of once stable coastal cliffs from the foggy bluffs of Northern California to the iconic bends of Big Sur and down into Southern California are showing signs of imminent failure. Cracks are getting wider, roads are warping, and the land is literally shifting toward the ocean. This isn't just erosion. It's not just a few chunks of cliff dropping off during a storm. The signs point to something deeper, something tectonic, something that could shift from weird weather to disaster in minutes. California's coast rides the edge of one of the most chaotic tectonic zones on Earth. The Pacific Plate and the North American Plate are locked in a grinding, relentless collision. Fault lines, both obvious and buried beneath the sea, hold back unfathomable amounts of stress. And now, that stress is starting to slip through the cracks literally. Recent monitoring has picked up swarms of micro-earthquakes offshore, small tremors, but clustered and persistent. They've been shaking near underwater slopes thick with unstable sediment. On their own, they're barely noticeable, but to scientists, they're like whispers from the crust. These little quakes suggest the Earth's outer shell is shifting, readjusting, and redistributing pressure in ways that raise every red flag. Meanwhile, climate change is adding fuel to the fire. Winter storms are stronger, waves are bigger, sea levels are higher. The very base of California's famous cliffs is being eaten away by record-breaking surf energy. The hydraulic pounding from below, paired with tectonic stress from within, is creating the kind of setup that geologists lose sleep over. A coast primed for sudden, catastrophic failure. But here's where it goes from unsettling to urgent. The real fear isn't just the ground giving way. It's what happens if a massive chunk of land collapses into the ocean all at once during or right after an earthquake. Because that, geologists warn, could generate a local tsunami. Not one of those giant waves traveling across the Pacific that gives you hours of warning. We're talking about a tsunami that forms offshore and crashes into the coast within minutes. No time for alerts. No time to wait for confirmation. Just strong shaking, followed by a surge of water that could hit the shoreline before anyone realizes what's coming. And it wouldn't take a towering wall of water to cause chaos. Just 3 to 6 feet of rapid flooding can destroy harbors, inundate streets, and put lives at risk in low-lying areas. Historical records show this isn't some doomsday scenario pulled from thin air. Ancient sediment layers prove that submarine landslides and seafloor collapses have sent waves surging inland thousands of years ago. This is not new, but it is accelerating. Thanks to today's tech, we can actually see the ground moving. GPS stations and deep earth sensors are picking up slow, consistent shifts millimeter by millimeter toward the sea. These aren't isolated slides or surface-level cracks. They're signs of progressive failure happening across broad swaths of the coast. The crust isn't just cracking, it's stretching, groaning, and reshaping itself under pressure. One recent offshore earthquake triggered emergency evacuations up and down the coast. In the end, it didn't produce a tsunami, but it could have. And that false alarm served as a grim rehearsal for what's likely coming. Scientists made it clear. This wasn't just a lucky escape. It was a wake-up call. The conditions are in place, and next time, the outcome could be very different. Engineers and geologists are especially worried about areas where the cliffs are already unstable. If a significant quake hits while these cliffs are on the brink, it could send millions of tons of rock plummeting into the sea in an instant. That's the perfect recipe for a tsunami, especially in places like narrow bays or harbors where water has nowhere to go but up. Emergency planners are now racing to update models, revise evacuation protocols, and get the message out. And that message is blunt: don't wait. If you're near the coast and feel strong shaking, you need to move to higher ground immediately. There may not be sirens. There may not be a warning text. The only thing between you and that wave might be your own instinct to run. It's a shift in strategy that speaks volumes. Scientists aren't saying if something will happen. They're focused on when and how bad it could be. They're watching the signs: fracture networks expanding, cliff faces sagging, ground tilting slowly but steadily toward the sea. They're tracking long-term soil saturation from relentless storms.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
And they're mapping slow-moving landslides that used to be considered geological background noise but are now potential catalysts for disaster. There's also growing consensus in the scientific community that California's coast has entered a critical phase. No, they can't predict the exact moment a cliff will give out, but the convergence of evidence tectonic, seismic, hydrologic is unmistakable. These warning signs aren't random. They're connected, and they're escalating. And let's be clear, this isn't some fringe theory. These assessments are backed by decades of data and a growing understanding of how local geology interacts with climate stress. We're not waiting for the big one. We're navigating a rolling crisis in slow motion, one that could snap into action with no countdown, no second chances. The cliffs tell the story better than anyone. They don't shout. They don't collapse all at once. They just shift, inch by inch, crack by crack. They've recorded every tremor, every storm, every ounce of pressure building beneath the surface. They're the quiet witnesses to a coastline in crisis. If you live near the coast, or even if you just visit, this is no longer background noise. This is the moment to pay attention, to understand what those cracks in the pavement and shifts in the land actually mean. Because once the ground moves, it moves fast, and water always follows. So here's the takeaway. If you're on the coast and you feel strong shaking, don't wait for instructions. Don't check your phone. Just go. Head uphill. Get away from the shoreline. That decision could save your life. And until then, stay informed. Because what's happening beneath our feet isn't waiting for a convenient time to erupt. If you made it this far, now's your time to weigh in. What would you do if you only had minutes to react? Drop a comment below. Hit that like button if you want more deep dives into the wild stories unfolding around us. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next big unraveling. Stay alert, stay safe, and keep watching the cliffs. They're trying to tell us something. Let's be real, California's relationship with natural disaster is basically toxic at this point. Earthquakes? Check. Wildfires? Constant. Drought? Standard. But now, the coastline, California's most iconic, most envied feature, is showing signs that it's next in line for catastrophe. And this time, it's not slow-motion erosion or, oh, that beach is smaller than it used to be. This is full-on geologic instability, and it's picking up speed. The cracks aren't random. The roads that buckle, not isolated. The cliffs slumping toward the ocean. That's not just pretty Instagram fog doing something cool with the light. That's the planet moving. It's GPS confirmed. Land masses are shifting seaward in real time. Not metaphorically, not someday, right now. And it's not just happening in one spot. This isn't just Big Sur having a rough winter or Malibu losing another slice of bluff to storm surge. It's from the northern redwoods all the way to the Palos Verdes Peninsula. Multiple locations, multiple failures, all signs of a coastline under unprecedented stress. The trigger isn't just climate or just seismic activity, it's both. A dangerous double act. On one side, climate-driven erosion is absolutely brutalizing the base of California's coastal cliffs. Rising sea levels are letting waves reach higher. Storms are more intense, more frequent, and delivering more energy with every crash. You've got stronger winter wave systems slamming into already saturated cliffs. The water is carving, dislodging, hammering away at the structural base that holds these bluffs together. Every storm becomes another chisel in the wall. Now pair that with tectonic stress from the San Andreas system and its branching fault lines. The earth under California isn't solid, it's in motion. And not the gentle kind. We're talking about constant, grinding pressure building up at fault zones deep under the ocean floor. Hidden ones. Ones we don't even fully understand yet. Those micro-earthquakes making headlines. They're not background noise. They're indicators. Small but consistent clusters offshore are telling geologists the crust is moving in ways that could destabilize both the seafloor and the cliffs above it. It's like the tension is looking for a way out, and it might not take a huge quake to set things off. That's what makes this moment different. The risk doesn't come from just one source anymore. The dominoes are all lined up: climate change, tectonic stress, structural weakness in the cliffs, and loose sediment offshore just waiting for a reason to slide. If any one piece shifts, the others follow. Fast. And that's the real danger. Speed. We're not talking about erosion you can monitor over decades. We're talking about collapses that can happen in seconds. Massive sections of land, potentially millions of tons of rock, could give way all at once. And when that kind of mass hits the ocean hits back hard. This is where the word tsunami stops being abstract. Because here's the thing. Most of us hear tsunami and think Japan, Indonesia, huge waves traveling across oceans, hours of warning. But the threat here is hyperlocal. It's what scientists call a locally generated tsunami, and those don't come with hours, they come with minutes. A powerful earthquake, a massive submarine landslide, or even a catastrophic cliff collapse in the wrong spot could trigger one. And in places like Monterey Bay or even Santa Barbara's harbor, where the topography of the ocean floor can amplify wave height, a 3 to 6 foot surge can turn deadly instantly. Boats destroyed, docks gone, roads underwater, lives at risk, all in less time than it takes to upload a TikTok. And sure, 3 to 6 feet doesn't sound massive until you realize that's a wall of fast-moving water rushing into streets, parking lots, schools, businesses. It doesn't trickle in, it barrels forward, sweeping up debris, smashing structures, and pulling whatever it grabs back out to sea. There's no early warning system that can compete with that kind of immediacy. By the time a sensor picks it up and a warning is issued, you're already losing time. Which is why emergency officials are shifting the message. If you feel strong shaking while near the coast, don't wait for an alert, evacuate immediately. Head inland, head uphill. Don't assume it's nothing. This is the uncomfortable reality. California doesn't get the luxury of reacting slowly anymore. And the science backs this up. Geological records have confirmed that in the distant past, thousands of years ago, massive underwater landslides off the coast did generate tsunamis. Sediment layers found in marine cores tell the story. Heavy, fast deposits pointing to a violent displacement of material, triggered by earthquakes. So yes, this has happened before, and under eerily similar conditions. Today's monitoring tools, satellites, GPS, pressure sensors are now giving us real-time feedback. And what they're saying is alarming. We're seeing coordinated ground movement across multiple regions. This isn't just bluff erosion. This is crustal deformation. A full-body shift of the land. Millimeter scale. Sure. But when it's sustained, directional, and affecting large areas, it means something big is brewing. It means the coast is in motion, and not in a poetic, sunset over the waves kind of way. In a geologically active, system-wide stress response kind of way. And it's not just above water. Offshore, steep underwater slopes loaded with loose sediment are getting shakier. These deposits build up over centuries, layered, unstable, and heavy. Add seismic stress or ground shaking to the mix, and you've got the perfect conditions for a submarine landslide, which is exactly the kind of event that could displace enough water to send a fast, localized tsunami toward the shore. What's most unsettling is how quietly all of this is happening. No headlines screaming disaster tomorrow. No countdown clock. Just a steady drumbeat of data, warnings, and geological patterns stacking up, one on top of the other. The most recent offshore earthquake didn't cause damage, but it did trigger emergency evacuations in coastal towns. And that was enough to expose just how unprepared many places still are. People didn't know where to go. Confusion spread faster than official alerts. For scientists and planners, that false alarm wasn't a waste, it was a trial run. A stress test. And it showed how fragile the system really is when seconds matter. Now, emergency teams are reworking hazard models, updating evacuation routes, rethinking assumptions. Because the next event might not be a drill. It might be a sudden cascade of failures, cliff, quake, wave, all happening in a tight sequence that leaves no room for error. If that sounds dramatic, it's because it is. The risks aren't hypothetical. They're observed, measured, documented, and they're converging in real time. So if you live on the California coast or you spend time there, this isn't about panic. It's about readiness. The new guidance is simple. Feel shaking. Go now. Don't second guess. Don't wait for confirmation. Don't assume it's overreacting. If the cliffs are already compromised, every second counts. Because the warning signs are already here. In the road cracks. In the widening fault lines. In the GPS data. In the satellite imagery showing cliffs slumping closer to collapse. The cliffs are literally groaning under pressure, and we'd be fools not to listen. The Pacific isn't just scenic anymore. It's signaling. So now it's on all of us to stay alert, stay smart, and take the warning seriously. Because the land doesn't lie. And when the edge of the continent starts to give way, it won't wait for anyone. The reality is, California's coastline has always been a little dramatic. Gorgeous, moody, dangerous. But what we're seeing now isn't just natural wear and tear, it's a warning on a geological scale. And that warning isn't coming from one place. It's everywhere, all at once. Satellite data, GPS stations, pressure sensors deep beneath the earth, they're all flashing yellow. Some of the most advanced monitoring systems in the world are picking up measurable, directional movement. That's not guesswork. That's the crust of the earth literally shifting toward the sea. And here's where it gets even more tense. It's not just that land is moving. It's how it's moving. This isn't a sudden, jolting earthquake. It's a slow, creeping motion, progressive failure. The kind that doesn't make headlines, until it does. Engineers are watching entire regions where the cliffs are bending, slumping, and fracturing in patterns that suggest long-term weakening. These aren't single landslides, they're systems unraveling. Once these cliffs are past a certain point, even a modest shake could push them over the edge. And we're not talking about just a few boulders falling onto a beach. We're talking about entire walls of rock crashing into the ocean. The kind of collapse that instantly displaces enough water to cause real damage. It's easy to tune this stuff out, especially if you've lived on the coast for years and seen your share of storm of the decade headlines. But this isn't hype. It's the accumulation of everything scientists have been tracking for decades. Only now, it's all happening at once. The erosion is faster. The storms are stronger. The shaking is more frequent. And the data doesn't lie. We know it's happened before. And we now have more stress in the system than ever. So the question isn't if something's going to happen, it's when, and how bad. For years, scientists have been saying the coast is eroding. Now they're saying, the coast is actively failing. That's not semantics. That's a shift in tone, backed by real-time data showing sections of land moving, cracks widening, and stress building where it shouldn't be. And if you're still thinking, well, maybe this is just a phase, think again. The 2026 consensus is clear. California's coastline has entered a high-risk period. That doesn't mean guaranteed catastrophe tomorrow. It means all the indicators are pointing to vulnerability right now. So what can you do? Stay aware. Know your evacuation routes. If you're near the coast and you feel strong shaking, don't wait. Treat it like it's the real thing. Because next time, it might be. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are you seeing signs of change where you live? Does your community have a plan? Hit like if you found this breakdown helpful, and subscribe so you don't miss future updates. Because this isn't over. The coast is shifting, the pressure is building, and we're all watching the edge. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.